Hi, I'm Tina Laster and you're at Laster Farm. You're actually in my kitchen tonight. We filmed one film today, and so I'm going to let you know what we're doing. I'm getting ready to can some chicken broth, and I'm going to let you know how I make my broth. I'm not worried about grounding it down really powdery, because I'm going to probably end up straining most of this out anyway to just pure liquid. I may pick the chicken off the bone and I may add some of that into some of the stock, but let's get started. I like to put onions in my stock. Some people like to put celery or carrots in their stock, but I don't really care if I put that in mine, because I just like kind of the pure taste of the chicken. And I feel like once you put celery in there or carrots with that, I know some people say it makes a richer stock, but I just kind of like mine with the onions in it. And I also like to put turmeric in it. I don't put a lot of turmeric, just enough to give it a little bit of color. It kind of adds to it. So I'll put probably, this is, I'll probably put about a teaspoon in there. And all of these herbs I've grown here on the farm except for turmeric. All of these came out of our garden from last year. This is whole basil, and I will probably put in about a tablespoon of whole basil. And like I said, I'm not worried about it being ground really fine in here, because I will probably drain my stock. I don't like a lot of garlic, like I said, in my chicken stock. Probably put like, I don't know, probably a half of a teaspoon, just a little bit. And I also am going to put sage, probably about a teaspoon of it, but I don't like things real sagey. So, and then this is rosemary. I'm going to put in probably about a teaspoon of rosemary. So these are my spices. You can just about put anything in there. Now these are black peppercorns, but I'm just going to ground some up in here, because to me, you know, the more pepper the better. My husband likes his real spicy with pepper, and the kids, they don't complain about it because it's really not that strong. And then I'm going to put salt. Sometimes I use the Redmond's real salt, but if I know I'm going to can it up, I'll just go ahead and just put the canning salt in there. And I'm just going to put probably about, I'm not going to make it over salty, that way I can salt it when it comes back out. So I think I'm going to put about a teaspoon of salt. Well, I tell you what, I think I'm going to put about a tablespoon. Put a big tablespoon, because that way we know that it's got some salt in there. And I'm just going to give this a stir, mix it all up good. And we can always add more spices, you know, after this cooks through tonight, and I might get up through the night and check on it, and I might give it a taste test then, just to see if it needs any extra spices added to it. But we're going to start out with what I've got for right now. And so I usually try to can up a couple of batches of chicken stock a year, because I just like it in the winter time just to get some chicken broth out. And it's really good if you have, you know, if you're wanting to add good gut bacteria to your stomach by drinking chicken broth. It really helps. And so I just really think it's a good thing to have around the farm. And you can add it to so many things. You can add it to a lot of dishes. So those spices are kind of getting to me. But anyway, I'm going to put it on 350 and we're going to let it cook for several hours. So we're putting it on 350 and we will check back on it in the morning, and then tomorrow we'll can it all up in our digital canner, because I have a glass cooktop, stovetop, and so you can't can with a pressure canner on this glass, unfortunately, because I would rather can with a regular canner. But since my husband bought me the digital, I have just loved it because it does everything. It steams your jars, and then you take them out and you fill them, and then you put them back in and turn the canner on and just forget it. It's so simple. And anyway, we'll catch back in the morning and we'll see how it turned out.
Good.
Okay, we're back and it's the next day. This cooked to about midnight last night, so I want to say from 7 until midnight. It cooked at 350, and then I turned it down to 200 and I let it cook until about 6 this morning, so everything should just fall off the bone. But the water level had only went down about 1 inch, but it has cooked, and it's a good, it should be a good stout broth. I did come back and add more seasoning to it last night because it was not salty enough, so I added 2 more tablespoons of salt, and I added another tablespoon of garlic powder, and then I added some celery seeds in there, and then I added a little bit more of sage, probably about a tablespoon or maybe 2 tablespoons of sage. It just seems like I had a lot of water in there, and it just really needed more flavor. You can still taste the chicken in it, the chicken flavor, but it still just needed something extra, because this broth, I'll be using it in stuff like rice and chicken, or just or just using it for like a chicken noodle soup stock or chicken and dumplings. You could use it for that, or just any type of soup or anything that you can use chicken broth in. You can use this chicken broth stock. I didn't add carrots, and like I said, I didn't add celery, but I did put some celery seed in. Okay, we're going to use my digital canner, and I just go by the digital book. It's the Presto brand, and for chicken stock, it only says that you only have to pressure can it for 20 minutes. If it's a pint jar, or if it's a quart jar, you go 25. Now, I've always had my ball book to rely on for any, for canning and making it, safe to eat, going by their standards. But for this and this canner, I just usually basically just go by this little book that came with the pressure canner. And so it's very simple to use this pressure canner. So when you turn it on, you want to make sure that your water is filled up about, there's a line inside of the pot that lets you know the water level. So just put your water in there, your cold water, up to that line. And then every pressure canner comes with one of these to go into the bottom. So you put it in, and that just keeps your jars from breaking and getting too hot on the bottom. It just keeps them above the heat. And on this canner, when you turn it on one side it says for pressure canning, and then the other side it has a light that says water bath canning. So make sure that you get it on the setting that says pressure canning when you deal with any type of meat. So we're going to put our jars in and just bring this up to temp. I just try to put a little bit of water in each one of my jars. We are canning with pints today because it's easy for my kids to just take one of the pint jars and just add it to something, or you know, just like when they're making macaroni and cheese or anything like that, they could add this to it if they wanted to. Or if they didn't want to put the cheese in it, they could just put the noodle in, and they could have like a chicken noodle soup, and they can even open a jar of my canned chicken and put in with it. Just a real quick meal for them. So what I'm going to do is I've got the jars in. I'm going to put the lid on. It's very simple to put on. You just put it on and you twist it till the little lines on the front line up. And then it has a little thing where you lock it in. Very simple. And then you go over here and you push the start button. And you have a knob. You turn it to the temperature, the time, the setting time that you need. So we're putting it for 20 minutes. So we roll it to 20 minutes. And then we just push the start again. And that says to insert the jars, okay? We inserted the jars already. So I'm going to push it again to let it know the jars are in. And now it's going through a warm-up stage. And so it'll warm up, and then after it warms up, it'll say fill jars. So when it warms up, we'll take the top back off, pour the water out of our jars, and bring it over to this space and start filling our jars with the hot liquid. It has to be hot liquid because you're heating the jars up, and it's hot in the very bottom. And it's also, it could break your jars if you put cold stock into a hot jar. And so we've got everything I think we need to can. I do put my lids, my flats, into a pan of boiling water. I don't let it boil very long. I just let it come to a boil, then I turn them off. A lot of people say you don't have to do that with the new lids, but tried and true, I always warm mine up a little bit and activate that seal, so it'll be easy to put it on the lid and it'll get a great seal. Also, I have vinegar and water. It's a 50-50 mix, and anytime I'm canning with meat, anything oily, I will use a vinegar and a paper towel to rub around the tops of my jars after I put my liquid and my product into the jar. So all we have to do is just wait for this to heat up, and it shouldn't take too long, but we will be right back and we'll get started on the canning. Okay, the canner just beeped and it's time to take the jars out of canner. So we just take the top off and just hold it away from you just in case there's some steam. And you just take the jars and pour the water out. I think that this canner, I think it holds about 8 pints, and I think I get 5, maybe 6 quarts in here when I can with quarts. Yes, it's 8 pints. So now it didn't hurt that there's a little bit of water down in the bottom. So okay, I have taken all of the chicken out of this, what I could. And so we have a big bowl of chicken. And what I'll do is I'll debone that and then I'll can that up. And so there'll probably be a little bit of this stock left over that I can pour in with that. And since it's already cooked, and then I can just top it off with water and it'll make more broth in that. But I do have this little strainer that I'm gonna put on top of this. So I'm gonna start filling the jars, and I'll just, cause I do have, you know, some bigger herbs in there and some big pieces of onion. And if I cook anything for my family, you know, some of them don't like onions, especially Taylor, one of my older sons. He's not a fan, I don't think, of onions, even though I know he can't taste them. But anyway, there's that one. And it's still, you know, it's a pretty color. You know, it's a rich broth. I mean, it has, I'm sure the bone marrow from the chicken is cooked in, and use the vinegar water, and then I'll take another towel and dry it off. And even my lids, even these lids, the flats, I like to take a paper towel and I like to wipe the water off, because I want to make sure that it has contact with the top. And these are hot jars, so you have to be careful not burn yourself. It's going to take a minute to fill these up. I would have had these canned up and done a little bit earlier today, but our daughter Millie had an orthodontist appointment, so we're just now getting back to it. Okay. I mean, I like to take the broth, and I like to just use it like a clear soup. And this is great for if you've had like a fast of any kind, like a doctor's mandated fast or a fast from church. This is a great thing when you start back eating food, to start back with a broth, a beef broth or a chicken broth, because like I said earlier, that broth is great. It's really healthy for your gut. I mean, it's really, really great. So I like to leave my meat in my jars and my broths. I like to, you know, leave about an inch headspace in the top of my jars. Whoops. Okay, let me go ahead and put the lids on these. Get these all cleaned up. I think we're going to have quite a few jars. Quite a few. Because that pan is still halfway full of stock. And that's great, because we were running low. I'll have to give you a pantry tour and let you see what I have left over from last year. And it's running kind of low in there. on everything. Now I do have store-bought canned goods and pastas and spices and condiments. You know, we don't live completely off the land, but I like to live off the land as much as possible. And every year it seems like I try to add something to that. you know, something to the property to, like with our chickens and with our, one year we raised a cow, but we didn't process him. But raising cows and bottle feeding calves, that is a big job. And I mean, we loved it, but we named one of our calves Moses, and he was a little bull that we had gotten, and we bottle fed him, and my thoughts were I was going to keep him to breed to a female and have, you know, Jersey calves on the farm. But that just didn't work out because he was so playful and he got so big. I was afraid he was going to hurt one of the kids or even me, because he loved us and he would just run up behind us and he would nudge us and try to go between our legs, and here he was, you know, his back was this tall, and he was only 4 months old or 5 to 6 months old. And you know, found him a new home, and that's when I got the donkey. That's when I got Festus, our male donkey. And we have processed chickens, but we didn't process any last year. It was the year before was our last year that we processed, because our freezer is still full of chicken, and we just don't need any more right now. Now next year, I'm sure we will, but the chicken that I have in the freezer, this is some of it, and I have tried to start canning some of it up because it's just real convenient, especially on a Sunday afternoon after church, to grab a jar of chicken and just fry up some rice and fix you some, you know, chicken and rice. That's great. But I love having chickens around the homestead. I love having them for the eggs. And right now, our chickens, I let them out of the chicken pen. I felt sorry for them through the winter months. And I know, I'm sure there's predators. They're keeping an eye on them too. But so far, our little group is still hanging around. But if they're laying, they're not laying where I can find them. So as of right now, I think that they're not laying. But who knows? Come spring, we might find eggs everywhere. But I love to can. I just love how our ancestors processed their own food and canned and processed their own meat. I just always said that I was born in the wrong time. But I know that's not true, because the Bible says that God has us here for such a time as this. So I know that every season has its own time, and we're in that season. And I thank the Lord for what I do know and the things that I have picked up along the way. I believe that, you know, the things that I do know, I know that they're a gift from God, and I give him all the, you know, credit, all the glory, because, you know, my mother canned and my grandmother canned and my great-grandmother, but they really didn't sit down and show their children, you know, what to do or how to pass this on. Because when I was younger, it's like the children need to be out of the kitchen. You don't want them running around your feet. So, okay. These are ready now. They're back in the canner. I'm going to close it back up and just push the start button, and the 20 minutes, it'll bring it back up to heat, and then it'll show the 20 minutes on the front of the screen, and it will start counting down, and then it'll have a cool down time. So we'll be back in just a second, and we're just started beeping, and it says done on the canner. I didn't tell you all ago, but you know, every canner has a pressure gauge on top. Well, this pressure gauge just has a little mark where it shows you where to put it. You don't have to mess with the setting the pressure or anything, you know, like 10 pounds of pressure or like you do on a regular canner. This automatically does that for you. And beside this green locking mechanism, there is a little peg, it will pop up when it's under pressure, and it locks it into place, and it will not let you open this until the pressure is out of the canner. So that's a really good feature that this has. And then when this starts counting down, it will go through a canning cycle, and then it will start your 20 minutes and counts it down, and then it will go through a cool down, and then it'll also start a 20-minute cool down cycle, and then that's when your pressure will escape out of your canner through this little hole that's over here with a little peg that pops up. And when the pressure is out of the canner, it will go back down, and it will count that feature down, and it says done, and you're done. This digital canner is really like a Instapot. So if you are familiar with an Instapot, then you can use this canner. It's very simple, as long as you just do exactly what it says on the front of it. And when it starts beeping, all you have to do is push the play button, and it'll go to the next step. So it's very, very easy to use, and I'm really impressed with it. This is my second year to use this canner, and I got it about this time last year, and I just absolutely love it. And you know, a lot of people are really scared of using a pressure canner because, you know, you've heard about them blowing up everywhere. I remember when I was a little girl, my mom was canning tomato juice, and it blew all over the ceiling. So I've always been kind of scared of them. So I'm really glad my husband bought me this one, because I have really loved it. And well, it says it's done. So let's just open it up. I like to give it a few minutes, even after it says it's done, to make sure that, you know. And then you just open the top and open it away from you to let the steam, or it won't fog your glasses up. And then I ended up plugging the roaster back up, because I'm going to end up canning another batch, and I want to make sure that that is hot when I get ready to put the next batch in. Okay. I just kind of tilt the water off the top of them, and then I just set them where they won't touch each other. And they're already popping as soon as they come out. Sometimes, I guess, when it is cool in the house, I'm worried about, you know, bringing them out and then them busting or something. But it's never happened so far, and I hope it doesn't. But you can still see, you know, when I tilt them sideways, you know, the air pressure in the can, they're still boiling. They're still hot and boiling in the, you can see some of it, it's still boiling in there. But it'll cool down, and the lids will pop and seal. Let me make sure I got, okay. I think I just put 7 in there. It will fit 8, but sometimes I'm scared if they're touching or clanging, because that thing will really start broiling. I mean, the water will really start broiling in that cooker. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, they didn't anything break clanging together or anything. But now, after this says done, I just push the, you know, hold it in, the black button in the center. Okay, you don't have to do that, but I do. And then you push the little X on the side, and that lets you know it's done. And then it'll go back to pressure canner, or you can push the knob and it'll go to water bath can. And so we're going to pressure can, so we're going to leave it on pressure can. And we're going to load some more jars back in. We're going to get ready for the next batch. And this water is boiling hot, so that's one reason why I wanted to heat that back up and make sure that it's really good and hot. I'm going to have to use this spoon till this one turned on. Okay. But, I mean, when you're canning quart jars, it may take 90 minutes from the beginning of your cycle to the very end to do one batch. And that does take a minute, but when you're doing something like 20 minutes, I think the cycle may go about an hour from start to finish. But I like to make sure that my cans are good and steamed. Even though I have already washed these cans, these jars, I mean, I still like to put them back through this cycle and steam them. Okay, we're getting ready to do it again. We just put the lid on and lock it in place and go over and push the start button. It's a play button, looks like a little arrow on the VCR that says play. You turn your little button to 20 minutes and then push your play again to lock your time in. And it says insert jars. So we've got our jars already in, and then we just push start again and it starts warming. That's the warming cycle. And after the warming cycle, it'll go right through it again. Take your jars out. It says fill jars. Take them out, fill your jars. And then you put them back in, can them, go through the canning process, and then you do the cool down again. It's very simple. So I hope this video has helped someone today, and I look forward to doing more canning videos because I love to can. And so thank you for hanging out with me today in my kitchen, and I look forward to seeing all the ones that have subscribed to my channel. Now, I'm so thankful and blessed, and I want you to have a blessed day. So thank you for hanging out with me today. Bye. Till next time.